Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times discuss books and horror. And today I have something very special for you guys on the menu. I'm here to talk to you guys about cursed objects.
It's coffee time.
Many horror movies and many horror books have curses in them. It can be someone that is being cursed, it can be a whole town that is being cursed, but a lot of the times we have cursed objects, and those I find quite fascinating, to be honest. And they have started really big franchises like the Conjuring movies, for example. And I'm here today to talk to you about cursed objects when it comes to horror books and give you a couple of recommendations. A cursed object is an object, an item that gathers stories, and most of the time it gathers trauma or a very bad event that happened, and it carries some sort of evil force within it. And with time it becomes powerful, and people that touch it, come in contact with it or own it, might have problems like people around you dying or yourself being cursed because you touched that object.
You can't touch this.
Today I have a total of 8 book recommendations, so let's get to it. Now, the thing about cursed objects is that there is not really a scientific way of proving that these objects are cursed. It's almost like religion or ghosts. You either believe in a god or that ghosts exist, or you don't. So you either believe that objects can be cursed or you don't. So it all kind of depends, as always, on your beliefs. Something that I particularly find fascinating about cursed objects is that they have their own market on eBay. There's many people that are selling objects that are claimed to be cursed, and I don't know why someone would go out of their way to buy and get an object that is supposed to be cursed. Like, we don't have enough in our lives that we need to add that extra kick. No thank you. Even though I'm not a firm believer that cursed objects are a thing, the same as, saying Bloody Mary or Candyman in the mirror, I would just not want to tempt my odds. Now let's start with the book recommendations, and we're gonna start with The Amulet by Michael McDowell. After a terrible rifle range accident, Dean is left in a vegetative state, and his wife works really long hours to try to keep everything afloat, only to come home to Dean's mother that is always in a really bad mood, and Joe, Dean's mother, blames everybody else for what happened to her son. In the story, Joe is going to give him a very special necklace, and Sarah, the wife, is going to realize that since the necklace came into play, basically a lot of people around them are mysteriously dying, and she assumes that the necklace has something to do with it. So will Sarah be able to save themselves from this cursed object? I feel like pendants and amulets and this type of jewelry is something really common that we see as cursed objects. And one of the reasons why I could think that's the case, it's because those are things that most people carry or are wearing when they die. So depending the way that they die or are murdered, those things that you're wearing around you might collect that moment and might carry that evil then with them. Let's move now to the Blackstone Chronicles by Joan Soule. This originally was published as 6 different novellas, and each novella was dedicated to a very specific cursed object. And now it's also available in just one book that contains all 6 different stories, so you only need to get one. And they range from very different types of objects. There is a doll, there is a locket, there is a stereoscope, there is a handkerchief, and many more. And I do like John Soule's writing and his stories and his horror. So if you read anything else by him and you love cursed objects, this is one that you need to get. I also love this concept because it's like a little mini series of books that focus each of them in a different like cursed object, you know, almost like paranormal investigators would be like investigating a case every different week. So it's something that I really like. And now we have a classic, The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I feel like this is a very well-known story, but maybe not everybody has read the book. The book, or the concept of it, is basically what would you be willing to do in order to be young forever, something that I know a lot of people would like. So how far would you go? Our main character obviously would do absolutely anything, so he ends up kind of selling his soul for a portrait of him that he needs to keep protected, because as long as he keeps this portrait, he will never age. That's kind of like the deal that he did. Also, no matter what kind of evil things he does, the portrait will always remain his safety to stay young forever. He will always look on the outside young. There was also a movie, you might have seen that one, but I do also recommend you to check out the book if you haven't and if you like the story. And of course, I could not do this video without mentioning a book by Stephen King, because there is a big classic here, and that is Christine. Who has not heard about Christine, the evil car from hell? Now, one thing is to have a little locket that is cursed. Another thing is have a literal car that is gonna drive you to hell. Also, when it comes to curses, the bigger the objects are, the more dangerous they tend to be. Our main character Arnold, he doesn't know the story of Christine. He doesn't know what's gonna happen when he gets her and names her Christine. But soon he will realize that this car is from hell and that he's in terrible danger. Now, I know a lot of people might not really love the idea of a car being evil. You know, there is some certain objects that I feel like are less believable than others, perhaps, when it comes to horror. But I always thought this story was quite fun, and yeah, it's a Stephen King chunker, so check it out if you love big cursed objects. Now let's talk about a book that has recently, I believe like a couple years ago, got a re-release, and that is Annabelle by Ruby Jean Jensen, which is another classic. And I feel like this is gonna be perfect for people that love cursed dolls. I personally love them. Another book that you could try is Frozen Charlotte, but the one that I wanted to mention here is this one by Ruby Jean Jensen, because maybe a lot of people have not had access to it in, you know, in the last years, because it is an oldie that it's not so easy to find if you want to find the old vintage paperback, but it has been reissued, so, you know, younger generations can also enjoy it. The story follows a girl that finds an old dollhouse and an abandoned mansion, and she starts playing with it and she loves it, and then she realizes that the dolls start moving around, might be whispering things to her, and that is where all the horror comes to play. And like I said, if you love doll horror stories, this is a classic that you need to read. Moving on to The Picture Frame by Ian Rob Wright. And picture frames, as well as mirrors, is another object that tends to be cursed. They love to give these objects curses. And also, you know, mirrors can be used to summon also people like Bloody Mary or Candyman. I guess there's always been a fascination of mirrors in portraits and frames, because seeing yourself in a mirror or in pictures is always something that probably was weird when it all started, when people were able to take pictures of themselves for the first time, or when mirrors were built for the first time. So I feel like it comes from way back in the day. Our main character, Blake Price, is a really successful mystery writer. He has even been compared to Agatha Christie, but then basically something happens to him and his family, and he starts to struggle. He gets secluded with his family, with his son, and he wants to cheer up his son. So he decides to make a treasure hunt in their garden. What they find is an old picture frame, and at the beginning he doesn't really think much of it, and he starts using it until he realizes that it could be potentially evil. Also, picture frames are basically in every household, and what happens when someone also perishes and those things get resold and stuff like that, because a lot of, you know, these cursed objects come from secondhand stores or places like that. Our next cursed object is actually a chair. We have the Heirloom by Graham Masterton. So this is another on the bigger side of a cursed object, and one that you don't see done so often, a chair. An antique specialist finds this chair known as the Devil's Chair, and it has like bodies carved around it, and he decides this is a really good piece and he needs to take it home. But soon he will regret that decision when he realizes the chair seems to be evil. The way he realizes that everything is due to the chair is because the moment he brought the chair home, a lot of weird things started happening, a lot of bad luck that he had, and it all tracks back to the day that he got that chair. As I was saying, things that you buy at antique shops or secondhand stores might be cursed. And last but definitely not least, I wanted to mention a non-fiction book about cursed objects, and that is Cursed Objects, Strange but True Stories of the World's Most Infamous Items by J.W. Ocker. This is gonna be perfect for horror fans, for people interested in horror objects in general, like cursed stuff, but also for people that really enjoy the history of certain items and people that are interested in real cases. Cursed objects can be everywhere in someone's household, in a museum, in a graveyard. They can be anywhere and we might not even know it. In this book you will discover some of the true stories behind some items that you might even know from, you know, TV shows or movies, including in this case the story of Annabelle the doll that got really popular after the Conjuring movies. That is one of the stories that is included in this non-fiction book. Alright guys, so these were my 8 book recommendations on cursed objects. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you know of any other interesting books about cursed objects, let me know down below, because I am definitely a sucker for this type of stories. I want to know everything about cursed objects, their background story, where they came from, why are they cursed. Like, it's all of that mystery around it and kind of like trying to solve the puzzle that I find so interesting and entertaining. So let me know down below. I hope that you found maybe something in this video that you would like to read. Thank you guys as always so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in our next coffee time. Bye!